Welcome back to Comic Watchers. Comic Watchers is brought to you by Comic Watch. Comic Watch is your source for all your comics and media news and reviews written by fans for fans. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Spread the word. We're coming for the clickbait sites. It's our time now. I'm your host, Cody, coming to you from Oahu. You can follow me on Twitter at Cody L. White on Twitter. And here's the rest of the gang.
Hey, I'm Brian from Salt Lake City. You can follow me at BK Derbs on the internet everywhere.
Hey, this is Matt, calling from Oklahoma City. Follow me on Twitter at The Uncanny Matt.
And it's John. I'm John Jack. You can look me up on Facebook. I'm on Twitter under John Batusi Jack. Don't ask me why. And you can also look me up in my Facebook group For the Love of Comic Books.
And you'll notice that we're absent Brian this week. He's under the weather, so Matt will be filling in on news. But let me do Brian's pitch before I forget it. If you want to find out more about us, you can find us at www.comic-watch.com. You can also listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. That's the thing, right? SoundCloud. All right. And now I'm going to kick it over to Matt for this week's news.
Hello. It was a fairly light news week. I'm not going to do this anywhere near as well as Brian does, but I'm going to do my best. So I think the biggest news of the week is actually kind of tangentially comic book related, but there's some geek cred there. But actor Luke Perry passed away all very suddenly on Tuesday at age 52. And again, of course, he's best known for 90210, Teen Heartthrob, etc. He was also the dad to Archie on Riverdale. And he did a lot of voice work for cartoons like The Incredible Hulk. And he was in the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. So, our hearts go out to his family and friends. And Luke Perry, rest in peace. There was second item. There was a really weird and frankly stupid rumor that went around online this week that Disney was going to shut Marvel down. This is patently false. I really shouldn't have to say this, but I guess since it made the internet aglow with joy or panic, pick your poison this week. Let's just get it out there. No, Disney is not shutting Marvel down. That's dumb. We got new trailers for Shazam and Dark Phoenix. I felt like the Shazam personally was a little bit more of the same. It wasn't bad by any means, but I don't feel like it gave me a whole lot new to digest. And I, without getting too far into it, wasn't super impressed with the Dark Phoenix trailer. Guys, y'all have some hot takes on either of those?
The Dark Phoenix, I didn't see the trailer, but the poster looks like a bad Photoshop. So it kind of makes me feel like they're not putting that much effort into it and kind of trying to maybe push it. Because I know X-Men are potentially in a point where they can join into the MCU. So I feel like they're probably just trying to pump this movie out real quick to, so everybody gets paid and they can pay off the people they already paid.
Yeah, that poster was a little overwrought. I mean, I don't know. I see what you mean, though. When I saw the image, it just feels like they're trying to rip the Band-Aid off and get this thing over with, which is kind of sad. I don't know much about the movie other than like the previews have kind of sucked. The people who've seen the tests, the audience tests have sucked. Is that what you call them? I don't know. And they've gone to do rewrites like, I don't know, half a dozen times, something like that. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope for this one.
I think it'll be fine. It looks fine. The worst criticism I heard was somebody said it's just like X-Men Apocalypse without the good parts. And that's pretty bad. And that's pretty brutal. Like that's rough. But
that's really rough.
That's really, really, really rough. My God.
But I think it's going to be a fine movie. It's not going to be anything like what you want out of a Phoenix movie, and you're just going to have to accept that this is going to be the Fox X-Men Dark Phoenix saga. And if you buy into that, I think it'll be okay. I really do. We do have confirmation from director Simon Kinberg, or is he producer? One of the two.
I think he made his directorial debut with this one.
So
I believe the internet will probably correct me if I'm wrong.
right. He came on Jimmy Fallon and said that he is killing Mystique in this one, which I mean I think is a really major marker as far as this will be the break. Like this will be it. I don't think we're ever going to see New Mutants, like maybe direct to video at some point just before the merger, but yeah, this is the end of a chapter that started, in my opinion, just fantastic with First Class. So, you know, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. Fourth film, fuck it, why not, right? Shazam looks awesome, by the way.
Shazam does look
Oh
awesome.
yeah, I can't wait for that one. Oh,
yeah, I'm the same way with the X-Men, though. I'm probably far more into the X-Men than you are, Cody, as far as, I mean, fandom. But, yeah, I'm having a hard time caring. But Shazam, I don't know much about it, right? I don't really have a lot of history with the comic. But this movie's made me want to go dig and find out about the character, which, I mean, I don't know, that's a really good marker for something that might be good. Just, I don't know. I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm pretty stoked for it.
I definitely recommend the Johns series, or it's not even a series. It was backup stories to Justice League that got combined into a trade. Definitely worth recommending. And I also just read Superman Shazam First Thunder this last weekend, which was just excellent. Probably like, you know, Winnick, his biggest book is usually considered Under the Hood, was kind of his peak. And I might call the First Thunder another just kind of can't miss Winnick gem. He doesn't have a ton, so it's worth looking at. And then I also just got the Monster Society of Evil, which I haven't read yet, which is a 4.
So good. So good.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. I'm probably gonna read it after we're done tonight. Actually, I saw it and I'm like, I saw the art and I was like, oh yeah, I'm reading this like tonight. Like, it's the first chance I get. I did have a piece of news also. Since I'm the only one who covers sword and sorcery stuff, apparently. Earlier in the week, it made news that Mike Deodato Jr. was leaving Marvel and doing his first non-Marvel work in 25 years, and that work was revealed today to be a Barbarian in Current Day series written by Jeff Lemire with art by Mike Deodato Jr. I don't remember who was doing colors, but Steve Wan's his letterhead, which made Cody laugh because of course he is. That dude's everywhere. It's an impressive body of work on that Steve Wan's, gotta say. But it would appear to be a barbarian who has been transported via wormhole into the present day, and is battling a wizard who is also, or a warlock who is also transported and protecting people. And weirdly, in the interview, he mentioned friendship a couple times, so it might be wizards and friendship with a barbarian, which wizards and friendship. I'm sure it's gonna be great. No joking. You know, it's Lemire and Deodato.
Deodato was born to draw a barbarian sword and sorcery type comic.
I know, he's almost like a current day Frazetta or like a Jesco maybe.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I could see that. With really, really big hands.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
No, you're cool. I actually had that notated, but
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's round robin this thing. Jason Aaron sort of kind of made news by heavily implying that his Thor run will end with War of the Realms, which, if you've been reading that book, makes complete sense, but worth noting just because he has been on the book for close to 7 years now, and that's almost unheard of in today's comics industry. So hats off to Jason Aaron. Thank you also for not overstaying your welcome after you finish your epic.
That breaks my heart, but that is probably, to my knowledge, the longest Thor run. Maybe Lee was on longer, but I don't think Lee was actually writing those last issues. Even Simonson was only on for like 40 issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty gigantic chunk of Thor. Like, we've had 700 issues, and so about an eighth of all Thor solo title ever written was Jason Aaron.
So there you go.
Crazy.
There you go. And then one last little item of note. Matt Wagner last week wrapped up his Mage trilogy after 35 years in 3 different volumes with the final issue of Mage, the Hero Denied, which is got to be some kind of record and an incredibly impressive feat. So hats off to Matt Wagner. And that is it for the news.
Awesome. Yeah. Light news week, but also very interesting news. So that's pretty cool.
Hey, let me make a correction. I've seen comics. I've seen Cody's comics collection. So there's really no way I can say that I'm into X-Men more than Cody. So I like to redact my statement.
I was just going to let it go, brother. I was just going to let it fly.
It came out of my mouth and I was like, God damn it.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, there's no way.
It's all good. I do have I took a break for a long time from X-Men. So now that I'm coming back to it, but I mean, they've been a big part of it.
You just always say you're a DC guy and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you got Wolverine right behind your head, for God's sakes. So
yeah.
Never mind.
Fair enough. So on to our spotlights. I think we chose some pretty good ones this week. At least some pretty discussable ones. We'll see how it goes. Let's start off with Captain Marvel, Braver and Mightier. So this was a one-shot, essentially structured like a primer prior to the movie coming out. The movie comes out on the 8th. Everyone go see it. I think it's going to be great. This one-shot was written by Jody Houser of Mother Panic, Stranger Things, and one more that is escaping me right now that Matt Meyer is going to come to my rescue on. Faith nope. From Valiant.
Yep, that was it. Yes.
So she's a fairly rising star in the industry. In my opinion, she writes the best prose and exposition in the industry right now. I really look forward to seeing her get some bigger projects. The art was beautiful from Simone Buonfantino. I'm sure that's wrong. We'll go with it. So the essential premise of this story is, there's a charity event at an Air Force base that Captain Marvel's supposed to go to, speak to the press. And the first people on the press billet are 2 high school journalists that are allowed to ask her one question, but they get to ask her first. Except there's an alien armada flying towards Earth, and Carol, being Carol, goes to stop it. And she gets an assist from her Alpha Flight friends, and they stop the invasion. She comes down, and she has a one-on-one with the kids. And, she says, you're only allowed one question. That's terrible. You can ask as many questions as you want. The essential point of this book was not only to kind of give people an orientation point for the character before they start to watch the film and get into her, but more importantly, to kind of understand the inner characterization, the motivations, the kind of things that she does. Like, she is a quintessential superhero. The people come first, sacrifice it all, put it all on the line type of superhero. And I think, we kind of lose that in all of the buzz and all of the discourse surrounding the character recently. So, it was an important reminder of just what the capabilities of this character are, just in a throwaway standalone instance, much less in a longer sustained run. I know it's unfortunate that Brian's not here with us. He just binge read and wrote a commentary on the Kelly Sue DeConnick runs and the Margaret Stoll Life of Captain Marvel run. And if you get a chance, go check that out. It's really moving stuff. So let's kick this over to Derbs, because I know Derbs, you kind of seemed a little lukewarm on this issue. I'd like to hear what you had to say about it.
Oh, really, really, pretty much what you said. She's a hero. She has powers. She's female. She's historically important for Marvel, and I just think she's important as a character. I know this is a big argument right now online, but I'm definitely pro Carol. I've been a fan of hers for a long time, even before I started really reading over the last year. And to start with, I couldn't tell you exactly why. I just thought the character has always been very appealing. So I've just been really stoked for her movie. But I've been getting kind of tired of the drama. And so I've been less stoked because I'm just getting burned out. But I read Brian's article, and I bought tickets like right after I read Brian's article, like 3D on Saturday in the afternoon. So I'm ready to go. But yeah, it was a good comic. It was a good commercial without being a commercial. I didn't feel like I was being, I didn't feel like I was being fed garbage so that I go watch a movie. I just felt like it was a good umbilical cord for anybody who wants to know more about it. And yeah, it was good. It was fine. JJ, what do you think?
I thought it was a fine issue. I wasn't super duper into it. I don't, the high school students was a decent angle, but if anything, I felt like the Carol action in space took me away from the high school students, which I was kind of interested in. Like, because they were like talking about like what could we possibly ask a superhero, and I thought that was kind of fun, and like it's kind of a fun thought. Like, if you met Superman, what would you ask Superman? What would you have to say? Even like a real life person. If you met Keith Richards on the side of the road, would you have anything that would possibly be interesting to say to Keith Richards just as a one-off statement? You had one thing to say. Like, I probably wouldn't. Like. So the issue itself did feel kind of very much like almost a victory lap for the history of the character without really adding anything. I might have liked to see some kind of, villain or something other than nameless bad guys who she gets to beat and then hand off to someone else to beat. But they literally didn't get names. So there were no stakes. Like, she was never going to lose. Like, none of that was super interesting to me. And as a reader, I don't feel like I really gained much from it, from reading this versus, the miniseries that just came out that, by all accounts, is excellent, and I'm going to read at some point. But I feel like there might be some gain or something to be gained from reading that. Whereas this, I feel like all I gained is Captain Marvel exists and she is nice to teenagers. So go see the movie, I guess. And I will see the movie, if nothing else than just to offset one person who is protesting the movie for some stupid reason, just to be a jerk. Just to be, my contrarian nature means I need to go see the movie just to offset one person who may or may not be named M. Anthony Guardo not seeing the movie. Don't worry, he'll never watch this.
Okay. So, yeah, fuel to the fire. So, just to piggyback on something you were saying, and I don't want to be real negative or anything in this review, because the story, it was sweet and it was genuine. But the action sequences up in space were fairly generic. They're pretty forgettable. I mean, the real heart of the story lies in the human aspect on ground level. So, I agree, that is a good angle to have taken with this story. There's been, we as fans, we know, generally probably a decent amount of who Captain Marvel Carol Danvers is, but your average Joe on the street is, almost certainly has no idea who she is. So this is kind of a crucial moment for Marvel to create awareness of the character outside of people that, like us again, and that's important because the minute that they start making these movies that cater only to comics fans is going to be the moment that they lose it. So they'll tie in issues like this. They exist for that reason. It's a fine story. It's a good angle. It's a good hook. As someone that's been reading, various comics with Carol Danvers in it for at least 20 years now, since I was buying X-Men Classics reprints in the early 90s of the X-Men's Claremont Cockrum run with her as Binary in it, I'm fairly well versed in the character. So this wasn't necessarily for me, but that's okay. The art was really fun by Simone Buonfantino, if I may massacre that name. And it was actually very reminiscent of Terry Dodson. I don't know if you guys thought that, but Terry Dodson's just a fantastic artist. So if you can be reminiscent of that without just outright aping him, that's a good thing. So it did, honestly, though, overall it felt kind of stretched out. Like some of those space fighting sequences were lots of big panels that ate up space but didn't really necessarily amount to a lot. So I really feel like objectively the story could have been an 8-page backup in something. But as a lead-in for a character that it does its job. So there you go. Cody?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to kind of wrap it up, like, we weren't the target audience for this book. And I mean, there's been countless books like this over the years. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of movies coming out. Quick, drop a one-shot. Let's give them the entire backstory of this character. And I felt like of the hundreds of these things that I've read over the years, like this was one of the better done ones. The stretched out space scenes that you're talking about, yeah, I mean, they could have been condensed, but the background narrative of them I felt was really important in kind of giving us some insight into who Carol Danvers is, not just as Captain Marvel, but just who she is as a person. Like, I felt like there was a really intimate touch in the ways that it was narrated. And I mean, maybe that's my bias. I just have fallen in love with Jody Houser's writing style. But yeah, like all the Batman ones that we've seen over the years, the Green Lantern preludes that were just awful. There's so many really, really bad ones out there. To see a good one, to walk out of it and being like, cool.
The Green Lantern Secret Origins reprint, where they reprinted it with the cover of the movie.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, like just so many bad ones over the years that were unnecessary and kind of, here's the intricate continuity of this character from the moment of gaining superpowers through first joining a team, and then you get all these like montages and collages. Like, this wasn't that. This knew what it was. Like, it wasn't trying to be bigger than it is. It wasn't trying to be a blockbuster comic, but it was trying to be something in and of itself that was well done and well crafted, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, and the sci-fi stuff is really just for contrast. I mean, the action and whatnot. I never ever was reading and thinking, this is what I should be paying attention to. This is what I should be focusing on. So I never really thought, oh, this is long, drawn out, and boring and unnecessary. I just thought, okay, yeah, here's crazy space shit and kids who want to talk to this goddess who's punching spaceships in the face. And, that's, yeah.
Well, unless anybody's got any other notes on Braver and Mightier, let's move on to our second spotlight. Last Chance, going once, going twice, sold. Dynamite, Peter Cannon Thunderbolt #2 came out this week. This is a series that I nearly skipped. It's being written by Kieran Gillen. Art is by Casper Venkart. Spent a long time working on the pronunciation of that name, so I I hope you see this, and I hope that I got it right. This is a story about the old Charlton character, Peter Cannon. But this is a story about Peter Cannon as he has been filtered through his Watchmen doppelganger, Adrian Vett Ozymandias. So what you see is Alan Moore took these Charlton characters and turned them into the Watchmen, right? You get, Blue Beetle becomes Night Owl, Phantom Lady becomes Silk Spectre, et cetera, et cetera. What you see is the kind of after effect of the original character, who never really made much of a splash in the DC universe after he was bought and obviously eventually was dumped. I have a few issues of a miniseries in like the early 90s maybe that they tried to prop up, and they didn't really do anything with it. So you're filtering it through this lens. You've got the Adrian Vett type, aloof, decathlon, ultra athlete, ultra genius, but isn't really interested in the rest of humanity, except to the point where, it's like, well, I have to be interested a little bit because their survival enables my survival, right? Like, he doesn't want to be the last man on Earth. So you get this aloof genius, and things start going wrong. There's attacks that turn out to be from another part of the multiverse, directed at them by himself. It's an alternate version of himself, an alternate Peter Cannon, attacking our whatever the dynamite core Earth is. So in the second one, he's gathering the heroes of his Earth, and they're going to take the fight to himself. Alternate versions, man. It's hard to talk about that sometimes. So they're going to take the fight to him. They have discerned through some magical scrolls a way to do it, and then things get super Grant Morrison-y, and we're getting into magic and transportation and transmutation and skipping through various worlds in the multiverse. I'm completely shocked at how much I dig this book. This could be terrible. I mean, it has all of the possible markers to be just an awful book. It's really, really fun. So without further ado, Matt, tell us what you thought about Peter Cannon Thunderbolt.
I gotta say, I wasn't 100% sold on this book until issue 2. Issue 1, super fun, great setup. Not sure if I'll check out number 2. And then I read number 2, and yeah, holy shit, I am sold on this book. Not only is it just super fun and has the blast just playing with multiversal concepts, but Kieran Gillen, and I don't know if he's done this in any of his other comics, but he's decided that he's just going to go full Scott McCloud or Will Eisner with the panels and the pages and filter it through Grant Morrison. So you get this awesome sequence where Peter Cannon and his 5 allies lay down on a ceiling, and they say, so nobody can he must be watching us, talking about his doppelganger. He says, but nobody can passively watch anything. It's not an act of passivity. So he draws this 6-grid panel for them all to lay on in their individual boxes, and they just stare back at the reader, and all of a sudden we've got a full-on I can see you moment from Grant Morrison's Animal Man run. And all of a sudden on the other side of the multiversal divide, his doppelganger says, oh my God, this is impossible. So then the 6 panels lift up, and they start just sort of rotating through the worlds down the page in this insane way that you just never see stuff like this. It's so innovative and original, and like I said, it's Morrison filtered through Scott McCloud or Will Eisner in terms of the artistic scope that it took to do it, and I just absolutely loved it. I really can't wait to see what happens. I really don't have much of a really anything negative to say about this book. The art by Casper was it's got a really clean style that was reminiscent of Michael Avon Oeming, but with less heavy inks over it. And it just really fit the story very well. It's not fussy art. It's just clean and pleasing to the eye to look at. Man, there's just so many little things in this book that I could continue to gush over, but I'm not going to do that because other people need to get a chance to speak too. So, man, just buy this comic. It is freaking awesome. Derbs, what'd you think?
First off, I'm just going to go by my experience of reading it because I dove right in. I don't know any of the history. I have no reference for this book or for the publisher or anything. So as soon as I got dropped in, about 2 pages later, I just realized, oh shit, I'm in over my head. And I have read enough to get the references. I've been exposed to enough to get that kind of similar feel, and I'm like, immediately, this is multiverse. I mean, and I read issue 1 first. I did them both today. And it's like they drop you in just in the finale of some long run that's just epic, and you don't get to see any of it up to the very last bit. And so, I mean, I don't think this book was written for someone like me. At the same time, I never felt like I was being talked down to, or like there was enough for me to understand. I mean, I'm a big Watchmen freak, but so I'm following it, and I was entertained the entire time. And once it was done, I was just like, I need to find out everything I can about what this is about, because there's so much context that I'm missing. And I could tell. And so I don't know. Yeah, go buy this, but at the same time, I don't know. If you know books like these other 3 guys do, yeah, go buy this. If not, read up, do some homework, either before or after. You're going to want to after, for sure. But the dialogue and the way it all gets done, it's easy. It's very easy to digest. It's very entertaining. You see the archetypical roles, the archetypes of these characters, and they're familiar, but they're different, and it's spicy, and I just really enjoyed it. Last man on deck.
Well played. I absolutely loved Peter Cannon Thunderbolt, actually. I wasn't sure what to expect. I initially wasn't going to read it just out of spite for Trey. Sometimes I do that to Trey, who writes for us. He'll tell me to read something, and I'll say no just to be contrary, and then never do it just to spite him. I'm never, ever going to read Wolfman, Trey. But this book is really fun. The second issue, when it starts dipping into the multiverse stuff, it was amazing. This book is somehow successfully doing something that Doomsday Clock is also doing, but I feel like this is almost like it's a direct epilogue to Watchmen almost. It feels like this feels like after, Ozymandias has, finished off his master plan at the end of Watchmen, he looks over at another screen and he's looking at Peter Cannon. Like, that's where it feels like we're at in this story. It's really interesting. And some of the characters, like the side characters, I think the guy was named The Turn, I think, and he seemed like he was talking in like video game references or something.
The Test.
The Test.
The Test.
The Test, that's right. But he seemed like a bit of a play on the Creeper a little bit, who was another Charlton character. Creeper was Charlton. Was that?
I'm pretty sure not. I think he was directly at DC.
No, he was in B Stories in the Blue Beetle series, the original Blue Beetle Ditko series.
I think he's right. I'm gonna double check that, but I think he's right, Matt.
Okay, cool.
Come at me, bro. But he reminds me of the, and it's just, he's got kind of a goofy humor that normally would be annoying in this kind of book, but for some reason it plays like when they first walk up to alternate universe Peter Cannon, and he's like, "Your car break down? This guy looks like a real gearhead." You know what I mean? He's got a gear on his forehead for some reason, like a tattoo or something, and he's just throwing out just joke after joke, and yeah, unfortunate what happens then, but he's also he quotes Watchmen a couple times. And definitely I liked even in Apocalypse I will not compromise my absurdity. Or even in the face of the apocalypse.
What was the movie he was referencing with that?
It was Watchmen.
Was it? Okay. Oh, okay.
It's what Rorschach says right before Manhattan vaporizes him, I think.
Right. And
Okay.
no, Creeper was created by Ditko at a time when Ditko was also working at Charlton, but was created for DC.
Oh. Strange.
Yes.
Okay. So we're both right, but you're more right. All right. That's all I got to say. We're on to the next book? Or
Yeah, let's...
Did you have thoughts on that?
I wanted to quick wrap it up. So yeah, Dynamite is quietly amassing a lot of really good talent, and they're putting out a lot of really good stuff. Like, I never thought I'd say that. I really didn't. But Dynamite is swiftly rising as a publisher to watch. So if you're not reading any Dynamite books, you see it #1, grab it, because chances are, if you follow the trend of lately, that's probably pretty well done, pretty well thought out book. Peter Cannon, I will be reading it from here on out. So
I was pretty pleasantly surprised with Red Sonja and Lone Ranger, which unfortunately Lone Ranger got downgraded to a miniseries from an ongoing.
Right.
But I thought Lone Ranger was worth a read if anybody likes old Western type stuff, and Red Sonja's neat if you like Red Sonja.
Yeah, and I just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going
to ask, do any of you guys know, is Peter Cannon an ongoing or is it a miniseries?
I don't know.
Okay, I looked and I didn't see anything.
Yeah, Dynamite doesn't really tell, kind of like Marvel has a tendency to not tell you. Because if it sells well, then they may just keep going. And if it doesn't, then they may say, it was 6 issues. Done and done. I think that happened with the James Bond Origin series that they're doing right now, which actually looks really good. I just flipped through it. I haven't had a chance to actually go back and read it. But it's beautiful. Looks like everything you could want out of a James Bond book. So I like that they're kind of doing these genre books that everyone else is kind of let go to the wayside. You know, Marvel had that Western one-shot, and they had the war one-shot, but Dynamite's all in. Like, they're like, give us your pulp, your tired, your worn-out genres.
Yeah, nobody does Westerns really anymore. TKO had a Western. One of their first minis was a Western.
Right.
But, yeah, neither of the big two have really had an ongoing Western since All-Star Western, right?
Yeah, I think that was the last one.
Which was good.
Yes, which was great. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And, you know, the Jonah Hex series before it, obviously, I absolutely adored. But
it really does seem like they're becoming this kind of a pseudo-dead IP graveyard. And
yeah,
they're resurrecting these kind of older, classic characters that used to be way popular, and now, you know, I mean, they were popular for my generation, but not as popular as, you know, like for my dad's generation. And, you know, it's pretty cool that they're getting their hands on these IPs and just reinventing them. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, even before this recent surge, the last thing I read from Dynamite regularly was the Garth Ennis Shadow series, which was fantastic. Matt's
I
looking.
had no idea Garth Ennis wrote a Shadow series.
He did, and it was really, really good.
I bet it was.
I think he wrote more than one volume. I think it wrapped a volume, and then there was a second volume.
Oh, wow.
John Cassaday was doing the covers.
He does a lot of covers for Dynamite.
Yeah.
He did the entire run of Lone Ranger that Matt Wagner wrote, too. I think that's like 25 issues or something.
Right. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but the A cover artist on Peter Cannon right now is Chip Zdarsky.
Yes.
What?
I was really surprised to see that. I had no idea that he had those kind of art chops to go with his writing chops.
He's good. He's a good artist, actually.
Yeah. I was very surprised. Well, if we're ready, let's move into move into our final spotlight book. It was a controversial choice. But I feel like we need to talk about it. I think it's important enough in the overall big picture of the industry that it needs to be discussed, hopefully in a calm and rational, not just hate-filled way, but legitimately kind of looking at what's going on here and how this is playing out. And that's Heroes in Crisis number 6.
Brian took a unique episode to be missing for this one here.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't calculated at all. So Heroes in Crisis 6, of course, it's being written by Tom King. This issue reunited him with Mitch Gerads on art, except for the first and last page, and that's something I actually really want to talk about. First and last page were Clayman. In fact, I might start there if you guys don't mind. No, let me recap it. So you follow 3 stories. One is the former Teen Titan Narc. You may not remember Narc. Maybe you do. He was just in Titans recently, as I tried to point out in the review. But he's a caveman, modern times. He was frozen, blah, blah, blah. And he's waxing philosophic throughout, all of his virtual therapy sessions about, Rousseau, and he's, citing Keats and et cetera, et cetera. And it never really amounts to anything. Then you've got the storyline of Harley and Poison Ivy, which is, a nice look at their relationship. And Harley's visiting. She's not actually a patient at Sanctuary. She's broken in and, is sure that when the big guys come to kick her out, that it'll be exciting and fun. And, they do some stuff in the VR simulator, blah, blah, blah. And it basically amounts to not a whole lot. And then the third line that's followed is Wally. Wally West, Kid Flash, recently returned. We know he's dead at this point. And it's him coming back, but coming back broken. Because part of his absence has cost him his 2 children and his wife. Right? We've talked about this already before. We've already went through this. It's showing all the ways that Wally is broken and moping. And then the emergency hits. The massacre begins. We know that during the massacre, Harley is inside the VR. She is with Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy exits the VR to check out what the massacre is. And Harley clearly has not left when the emergency alert goes off. We don't know the same for Wally, and therein lies the big spoilery reveal of this one. Is that we see Wally holding Roy Harper dead before Booster Gold shows up and blasts him. Similar to as we saw in issue 3, the exact same sequence, only it was Harley showing up and hitting him with a mallet. So, I mean, obviously there's something going on there, but I feel like from everything that I've read, and I've read this series very carefully because I'm reviewing it, that they've set up Wally to be the killer. And then for whatever reason, Booster and or Harley have killed him to stop him, I presume. And it just doesn't work on so many levels. It's a symptom of King's writing that there is no regard for what's going on around him. There is only his book. And I think that that's a major problem when you give him title in continuity books. So I've harped on this many a time. The artwork is fine in this book. The writing is actually not bad. except when it's taken into context of a larger whole. And that's where all the problems begin, because we have seen Narc recently. He's not a dumb caveman anymore. He's learned. He wears clothes. He speaks like a modern American. There's no problems there. We've seen Booster recently done by Dan Jurgens, who is the foremost expert on Booster Gold, not behaving the way that King writes him. And we have seen Wally, dear Wally, come back and be okay until after Flash War, until the realization. And the way that King writes it, it's like he came back damaged all the way to the beginning, from the moment he emerges from the Speed Force. And that's just, I feel like it's disrespectful to the other writers in the community that are also writing these characters and trying to stay true to each other. You see it all the time with, Snyder does something, it impacts this book. Drown Earth manages to leak its way into Titans because Titans has an Atlantean on the team. Of course it did. How could it not touch that book? And I just don't see that with King. Like, I just don't see any regard for what's going on around him. And the argument is, we shouldn't make continuity get in the way of a good story, except for it's not a really good story either. If this was a really great story, then maybe you get a pass. I see it with Jeff Johns right now in Doomsday Clock. Nobody in the rest of the DC continuity is talking about the events of Doomsday Clock, presumably because by the time we get to the end, there will be some time travel fuckery that will undo everything that happened in Doomsday Clock and reset. It'll give us the Legion back, it would give us the JSA back, whatever. So maybe nobody remembers. But with Tom King, obviously everybody remembers because everybody else is having to write these events into their books. Roy is gone, and it's been mentioned in, 6 different titles? Wally's gone. It's widespread problem. Anyway, somebody else talk about this. Derbs, it's your turn.
I don't want to just pass the buck, but a lot of what you said, etc. I will say this. So I've read a lot of Titans in the last, 8 months. And a big part of what I loved about Titans before the most recent group, before Megan's group, is that Nightwing and Wally have, Dick and Wally have a really great friendship. And that friendship really, I felt it. I mean, I got it. It was a big part of my enjoyment of that team. And there was a big part of that relationship went to healing a lot of Wally's shit. And he's done a lot of stuff since that happened. He's been through a lot of stuff. And it's as if King's writing it as if Wally lost his family yesterday. And it's pissing me off. The narc stuff, I mean, yeah, it's well written. I can write pretty well. I can BS my way through a paper and make it sound good, even though that paper may be complete BS. But I have a really decent vocabulary. But all of Narc's stuff just really did seem like it was a dead end. And hey, look, I have a vocabulary too, and I can I don't know. It just didn't go anywhere. I know he's trying to be profound with it, but to what end? And when you said, there's just, you can write, but if the story's crap, what good is it? Again, we don't know where it's going, but I don't even care where it's going. To be honest, I feel like I'm being trolled. You guys keep bringing me back and telling me to read Heroes in Crisis. It's the only reason I'm reading this damn thing is because of this fucking show. I mean, if I don't like something, I don't eat it.
but misery loves company, Derbs. It loves it.
Maybe this show has outgrown me or something. Anyway, yeah. JJ, you go next.
I'm not gonna yell. Everything Derp says, I agree with that. I actually wrote "narc stupid" with a question mark and underlined it 3 times. So, so I think you guys have pretty well covered that. Narc in this continuity was not stupid. Why is he stupid? That's stupid. That is stupid. Bendis strings of dialogue. Tom King has been hanging out with Brian Michael Bendis a bunch. Why are there entire pages with 40 word bubbles on them in one panel? That's stupid. I hate it. All right, I'm not gonna yell. Harley and Ivy. I dislike everything that is going on there. I'm fine with their relationship. I'm fine that whatever it is. I really dislike that we're once again for the millionth time rehashing that Harley hates the Joker. Of course she hates the Joker. She's always hated the Joker. My buddies at Weird Science did mention why, if Harley's not supposed to be there, why is the Sanctuary program giving her therapy? And why is she in the confessional? Which are excellent points. I don't like Gerard's art. For the most part, a lot of I liked some of the narc stuff was kind of cool, but like the fight scenes and stuff. But like, I felt like the panel where Harley hits the Joker in the face looked awful. There were a few other panels that looked really bad. In general, it was fine. Whatever. Wally, in his therapy, making the when he's with the Titans and they do the Teen Titans Go or Titans Go or whatever they say, Titans Together. I don't know. And him saying, reborn. Everybody was so happy and full of hope. And it's like this depressing dig at Rebirth. Rebirth was 3 years ago at this point, and nothing came of it. Why are we still referencing that? Nothing. It's and just let's see. Oh, there we go. There's my last note. Pretentious nonsense. That's all I. Once again, underlined 3 times.
Yeah, pretentious is my favorite word for this book. Pretentious. Yeah.
It is so easy to go get, a book that's considered a literary classic and flip it open until you find a passage that vaguely reflects what you're trying to convey in your story. Talking about, Plato's allegory of the shadows in the cave, and he's just trying to make it seem like there's a lot more to this story we don't understand, and he's trying to talk down to you, the reader. Are you going to take that, reader? There's another $12 worth of book coming. Don't buy it. How many dollars have you wasted on this book? Don't buy any more. Just don't. All right. I didn't scream. Matt, you take it.
I'm very proud of you. The self-control is strong with this one tonight. So I don't know how much more I can add to that because my feelings are pretty well reflected by all you guys. But so I'm gonna start with some pros. Throughout this miniseries, the art has been the best thing. Like Mitch Gerads in this issue wasn't anywhere near as pretty as Clay Mann's art in the previous issues, but it's still good. I'll be honest, Narc philosophizing while he's fighting like saber-toothed tigers was dumb fun, emphasis on dumb. And frankly, I would rather read an entire comic of that at this point than Hick number 7. But I'm going to read it anyway because I'm a slavish troll. Every time this series seems like it's getting its shit together, here comes something else to completely undermine it. Like Cody, you were, in your review for issue number 5, you said, well, it's a 6 now rather than a 3 or a 4, so that's some kind of improvement. And that I totally agree with that. But yeah, this whole series just reeks of pretentiousness. Tom King thinks that he's got something really profound that he wants to say about PTSD and coping and and death and all of this, and it's just not coming across the way I think he intends it to. And the problem is that it's so dry. Every issue of this is like pulling out the Wall Street Journal or something and reading about this terrible thing, what has happened to the superheroes, and it is very bad, and so on and so forth. And so, dude, I know you're a good writer. I've read Omega Men. I've read Mr. Miracle. I've read the parts of your Batman run that I liked. I read The Vision. He can write, and he can write with conviction and human empathy and emotion and strong characterization. And I just don't understand what happened here that in a series that should, like almost more than anything else that he's written, just reek of humanity. It's about as interesting as cardboard. And that's sad. And that fallacy, and not only that fallacy, but Cody, what you were saying, that with the disregard of continuity of other books, that's not just on Tom King, that's on the editors too. And that to me just says that whoever's editing this just said the hell with it. Tom King won Eisner's. We're going to let him do whatever he wants. We're not going to interfere. We're not going to tell him if this is a bad idea. We're not going to tell him you need to get off of the 9-grid page teat, because you don't need to do it every page. There's so many wasted pages where it's repetitious just because. Or the page, I think it was it was 4 or 5 with Black Canary, and 5 of the panels were completely empty because she got up and walked out of the confessional booth. I see what he's trying to do, but it's just not necessary. It is, in a word, completely pretentious. I don't know where this series is going. I can't swear that I care where this series is going. I do think that to a certain degree, it is deliberately being written for the trade. I don't think there's any denying that. And maybe it'll read better in the trade. Who knows? But I just can't bring myself to care at this point. Somehow or another, Booster Gold is being set up. Although, Cody, I do agree with your point that King's characterization on him is really regressive, and that's disappointing. It's disrespectful of the work that Jeff Johns and Dan Jurgens and other writers have done to really mature that character. That said, well, the art's pretty. Cody, I'm going to give you, and JJ's shaking his head. Cody, hey, I'm going to give you last word on this one because this one's kind of been your baby.
Yeah, so I have 2 last points I'd like to make. The first point being that this was originally scheduled to be a 5-issue miniseries. We've talked about that before. But what I hadn't noticed until this issue was that I'm fairly certain when this is all said and done, if you extract the Clayman drawn pages, you will have those original 5 issues. I think that everything that is inserted, the Lee Weeks issue, the Gerard's issue, all of that is part of the expansion into 9 issues. And I'm really curious, like I intend on taking this on as a project, and I plan on writing about it when it's all said and done. I'm really curious to see what the shape of that looked like as it was intended originally, because I think that's what we're dealing with here, and that could be, again, the editors, right? That might not have been King's call. I'm fairly certain that he wasn't like, yeah, but I got 4 more issues of material I can fit into this. I don't think that was his intent. So somebody somewhere said, we need to stretch this out. We need to do this. We need to do that. So, I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that perhaps his vision was corrupted by external sources. Maybe. The second point is that I think I know what the point of this is. Now, having read and reviewed half of The Price, because I'm already reviewing Flash, you look at the characters that have been killed, and the majority of them are legacy heroes. They're people that were inspired by the core heroes to go on and become superheroes of their own. And in The Price, you see them dealing with an inspired character in Gotham Girl who has come on and not been fostered into the community. And that's the big question, right? The price of loyalty is the sacrifice of a new generation. That's why Iris leaves at the end of The Price. So I think that what's happening here is that we're seeing the older generation of heroes being condemned for the cost on the younger generations of heroes. And if that's the case, that is completely destructive to the entire structure of DC and its history. DC has always been built on the notion of legacy heroes. I know you guys are sick of hearing me talk about legacy heroes, but I think this is a really important thing. Even as we, dawn into the Silver Age, what do we have? We have legacy heroes in the forms of Green Lantern and Flash and all these revitalizations. You see an entirely new Hawkman. You see an entirely new version of the Atom, spawning out of the legacy of the Atom Smasher. And I mean, all those connections are made throughout the years, throughout the decades. Sequential Robins. Like, this is a part of what makes DC work, and it's a part of what sets them apart from Marvel. So it's infuriating to see this absolute deconstruction of something that I feel is really vital, and it could have lasting damage. And that worries me a lot. I don't know. I'm sorry I get passionate. I'm rambling a lot today, but I'm really upset by everything that's happening here. And I don't see a way out without time travel and a soft reboot. And that's a shame. It's a shame to let one writer undo decades of work in 9 issues that he wanted nothing to do with.
There's still that chance that it's all a hologram. Maybe Wally was a hologram.
But we've seen his body outside of the hologram. Like, it's been moved. Everything would have to be a hologram at this point.
What if it is?
What if it is? Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Like, that was my original theory.
I'm just saying it's all dumb. That's all I'm trying to say.
I agree. So let's...
Well, it's all imaginary because it's a comic book.
Solid.
I did want to say, I know we don't give review or scores, but 2 out of 10.
So with all of that negativity behind us, fortunately we had 2 books. One that was pretty good, one that most of us thought was great, one that we mostly just really didn't like, but it's important, and it's too important to not talk about. Let's talk about what everybody read this week and what you're looking forward to next week before we close this show out. JJ, let's start with you.
This week I got a new tablet, which my tablet died a while ago. Got a new tablet with tax money. Sweet. But so I've got my Marvel Unlimited going again. So I'm reading Uncanny, which I've started a while ago, but I started the Claremont issues maybe 3 months ago, and then my tablet died, and so I kind of dropped off on that. But I've been reading Claremont Uncanny. I'm up to issue 141 now. It's been good. Also read a fair bit of Gotham Central this week, which is one of the better series ever made. Just if you like comic books, read Gotham Central. And for upcoming books, I am actually really excited about the Batman 80 Years hardcover, which my email said is coming this week, which is strange because the Superman one came the same week as Action 1000. But the Superman one was great. So I'm really excited about this one for two reasons. One is because it provides a covers gallery across the years with credits, which most covers were uncredited until like the 80s. So you're looking at, all the Golden Age, all the Silver Age, and all the Bronze Age issues and being like, oh, I didn't know Wayne Boring did that cover. I didn't know that was Kurt Swan's first cover back in 1952. I didn't know this and that. And the second thing I absolutely adored about the Action Comics 80 Years of Superman hardcover was they included bios in the back for every major creator who had ever worked on Superman. Like everyone down to, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, all the way up through Jeff Johns and Jim Lee. Like it's really interesting to see bios on, people like Kurt Swan, Cary Bates, stuff like that. So that was really cool. And it also reprints a lot of Silver Age and Golden Age stories that are what would be considered key issues and are well out of the price range of an average person who's not trying to drop $200 on a 70-year-old comic. So that like first Brainiac, first Supergirl, first first Lex Luthor, stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to the Batman one. I haven't looked too much into what's included, but if it's anything like the Superman one, it's definitely gonna be worth picking up. It's $30, but I know the Action Comics one was going for $20 within 2 weeks on Amazon of release on Amazon. So if you hold out, you might be able to get it for a decent price, a little bit cheaper. Although Batman books do tend to hold their value longer than Superman books, which is unfortunate. But if you see it on sale or something, or if you're a fan like me and buy it at full price, good for you. Support your local shop. But definitely worth your time if you're interested in the history of the character outside of the history of the character, if you get my drift, like the history of the people that worked on it and stuff like that. So there's a little plug, I guess. Matt, what are you looking forward to, and what have you been reading?
So, I just randomly decided to revisit Crisis on Infinite Earths a little bit this week, and obviously George Perez art, just amazing. I'm not going to wax too long on this one, but one thing that did catch my attention is the first half of the story is basically about giant tuning forks. And I don't think I ever noticed that before. It's kind of funny. The fate of everything rests on the giant tuning forks that we have to build. And it's just great. It's just wonderful comic bookery. Coming up this week, I'm actually kind of curious about this under the radar title that Marvel's putting out by Robbie Thompson called Meet the Skrulls. I don't know much about Robbie Thompson. I think I've read a handful of comics with him. I mean, he's fine, but just never really jumped out at me as someone I have to read his stuff or anything like that. But the premise of this has to do with in the middle of suburbia. And they may or may not be there as some sort of wider ranging conspiracy. But I like the slice of lifeness of it. And I believe it's a 5-issue miniseries. Of course, it's being timed. Oh, your cat really threw me off.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
I wanted to interject real quick. The suburbia that they're in, it's noteworthy that it's Stamford. For those of you that don't recall or haven't read the comic books Civil War, Stamford is the town that gets blown up. The elementary school gets blown up, 800 and blah, blah kids killed. at the beginning of Civil War that sparks the whole thing. So I thought that that couldn't have been just a random, like, we picked this. We picked this out
that's
of
not
a hat.
random at all. That's even more intriguing. So I think it's a really promising setup. Kind of some out of the left field stuff from Marvel, and we haven't done a lot with Skrulls in the Marvel universe since Secret Invasion. So hell yeah, bring it on. Miss me some Skrulls, damn it. Derbs, how about you?
Starting the Authority by Ellis. I've got a whole host of books that are most of my experience with comics is with the big two and with just the main characters. But a big exception is Watchmen, right? But I love indie books as well. But I'm just starting my education, I think, and really looking at the really high quality, very thoughtful, very industry breaking and making books. So that's where I've started. And I'm looking forward to reading Daredevil 3. Then, I'm hoping they really stick to their guns with it. They're going to be putting that through. So Daredevil 3, and then next week is Nightwing 77, 78, something like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that next week too.
Well, as for me, I spent a fair amount of the week catching up on Titans. I had gotten myself very far behind in Teen Titans, Justice League, and Titans. So I caught myself up on all three, read through Drown Earth, and now I'm completely current on all of them. So I'm ready for the Terminus Agenda, the prelude to the Terminus Agenda, the crossover between the Teen Titans, and Deathstroke starts this week. And I'm quite excited about that. But not as excited as I am, and I can't believe, maybe you guys just saved it for me, but Doomsday Clock number 9 this week. Get ready.
Yeah, I forgot. That was so good. No spoiler, but holy crap, read that book. Even if you haven't been following the series, read that one issue.
I keep forgetting that we get review copies. I can't believe I haven't read it yet. God damn it.
It's phenomenal. I'm excited. I'll be writing up and probably pushing out the review tomorrow. From the very first line to the very last line, I was hooked. I cannot wait.
Guy Gardner.
Stop it. That's okay. This won't air until
Best Lantern.
it's already out. But yes. So much good in that issue. I'm very excited for it. I'm also excited for Vita Ayala's Age of X-Man Prisoner X miniseries to launch tomorrow. This one will focus on Bishop after he's been taken off the board, and a handful of other people that have been taken off the board. She is a fantastic writer. I know, JJ, you've been raving about what's the one?
Oh,
Submerged?
Yeah. Oh my God, Submerged is so good, and Vita is so nice too. She's a sweetheart. On top of it all, she's just really, really nice person.
So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that, and looking forward to the next chapter of Age of X-Man. And I think that's it for us. We ran a little long because somebody couldn't stop talking. Sorry about that, guys. So from all of us here at Comic Watchers, you can follow us on Twitter at @CWatchers. You can find us on Facebook, the Comic Watchers page. Follow us on Facebook at Comic Watch, www.comicwatch.com www.comic-watch.com. SoundCloud and iTunes and Spotify and all the other crap that Brian normally does for us that I wasn't really prepared to do today. But oh well. We miss you, Brian.
We miss you, Arby.
Get better soon, brother.